Hello, I'm the Cube Master, and today we are going to talk about algorithm notation. Why learn algorithm notation? Well, if you go up to a Rubik's Cuber and ask them, "Hey dude, what algorithms do you use?" you better be ready for an answer like R, U inverse, L inverse, U, R inverse, U inverse, L. Now, if you know algorithm notation, you might actually know what that means. Let's get started. There are 6 faces on a Rubik's Cube, each represented by a letter. The F face, which is on the front of the cube, the R face, which is on the right of the cube, the L face, which is on the left of the cube, the U face, which is on the upper part of the cube, the D face, which is on the downside of the cube, and last but not least, the back face, which is on the back side of the cube facing away. If an algorithm asks you to make an R turn, turn the right face of the cube 90 degrees clockwise. If an algorithm asks you to make an R inverse turn, turn the R face of the cube 90 degrees counterclockwise. If an algorithm asks you to make an R2 turn, turn the R face of the cube 180 degrees in either direction. Let's try this algorithm. R, U inverse, L inverse, U, R, U inverse, L. Although this is rare, some algorithms may ask you to perform an M, E, or S turn. These stand for the mid-slices of the cube in the middle layers. M represents this mid-slice right here. If an algorithm asks you to make an M turn, turn it up. If it asks you to make an M inverse turn, turn it down. And if it asks you to make an M2 turn, turn the mid-slice 180 degrees. E represents the equator slice going across the equator of the cube. If an algorithm asks you to make an E turn, turn the E slice to the left. If it asks you to make an E inverse turn, turn the equator to the right. If it asks you to make an E2, you're turning it 180 degrees. S represents the standing slice. I don't know why it represents that, but that is the slice going around the cube like that. If an algorithm asks you to make an S turn, turn that slice clockwise. If an algorithm asks you to make an S inverse turn, turn that slice counterclockwise. And if it asks you to make an S2 turn, turn that whole slice 180 degrees. And what do you know? You got this cool design that you just made. Another situation you might encounter is where an algorithm tells you to perform an X, Y, or Z rotation. This means rotate the entire cube along that axis. An X rotation would be rotating the cube along its X-axis, which is going through the cube like that. And you want to rotate it clockwise, which would look like that. An X inverse rotation would be going counterclockwise along its X-axis, like that. Now a Y turn would be along the Y-axis, which would look like this, and an inverse would be like this, and then Y2 would be twice around. And then the Z-axis, which is going straight through the cube. A Z rotation would be rotating it clockwise along its Z-axis. An inverse would be counterclockwise, and then you can always do 2 rotations. This is for those of you who tore apart your Rubik's Cube from the last video and don't know how to put it back together again. First, you pick a side and put in the 4 edge pieces for that side. Then, you put in the corners for that side. Be careful, they like to fall out. Next, you put the edges in on the middle layer. Now the last layer is kind of tricky, so I always start by putting in 1 edge, and then I put the 2 corners that go next to that edge in, and then the 2 edges next to that corner, Then I put in the last two corners. And then I put in the final piece. Don't hit like unless you enjoyed the video, and don't subscribe unless you want more. Goodbye.